approach kita kepada keluarga tadi.
The strain is beginning to show. 5 days into the search for Malaysian Airlines flight MH370, and the cracks are appearing in what began as an internationally coordinated search. Now Malaysia's neighbours are questioning the conflicting information coming out from Kuala Lumpur. China, the plane's destination, has described the information as pretty chaotic. Vietnam is scaling back its mission, and India claims it has now been asked to join in the operation to extend the search near the Andaman Sea. The one certainty, there remains no sign of the plane, its passengers or crew. The arrivals board in Beijing simply said that flight MH370 was delayed. The truth was, it had vanished.
We are deeply saddened this morning with the news on MH370. Malaysia Airlines confirmed that this flight, MH370, lost contact with Subang Air Traffic Control at 2:40 a.m. this morning.
An international search and rescue mission was scrambled.
We're working very closely with our neighbours, especially with China, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, where we have requested assistance. First, on information or whereabouts the planes may be, and secondly, if there is a need for search and rescue, which we cannot cope.
The Chinese immediately tightened security at their airports, as it became apparent the passenger list for the flight had two anomalies: an Austrian called Christian Kozel and Luigi Maraldi, an Italian. But neither man was on board. Both had had their passports stolen in Thailand.
When we checked it in our system, it came back that this is a stolen passport. So we contacted the person to who the passport belonged. This is a person living in Austria. He's safe and sound. Police talked to him. He confirmed the story that, yes, indeed, 2 years ago, 2012, on a trip in Thailand, his passport was stolen.
Malaysia Airlines has 15 Boeing 777-200 jets in its fleet. It's one of the safest aircraft in aviation history, capable of flying extremely long distances thanks to two giant engines. Even if one fails, it shouldn't fall out of the sky. The Boeing 777 aircraft took off from Kuala Lumpur on Friday evening UK time. It was due to land in Beijing around 6 hours later, following a route that took it along Vietnam's east coast. It had been in the air for less than an hour when contact with air traffic control was lost near Vietnam's Tho Chu Islands. It was there the search was initially focused. Still, so much hope that passengers and crew might be found. More than 20 aircraft and 40 ships scoured the ocean, focusing on an oil slick seen between Malaysia and Vietnam. It later proved to be unconnected. For waiting loved ones, the agony of not knowing had just started.
And I've got a 3-year-old who's asking, when's Daddy going to Skype? And he's got a map on his wall where Daddy plotted where his Dad's going to be, and so, you know, he looks around and he says, when's Dad going to Skype? Will Daddy be there? When will he Skype? So, luckily he's with friends at the moment, but I will cross that bridge when I have to cross that bridge if I have to.
The priority for any airline in an incident such as this is to care for the families of those affected, not just of the passengers, but also of the crew. And in the absence of facts, it's very hard for the airline to give out anything other than what it really knows.
The search operation was clutching at straws. This debris, spotted by the crew of a Vietnamese Navy plane, was initially thought to be an interior door. Instead, another false lead.
We confirm that our search now has been extended to even wider areas, because there is the possibility, we're looking at the possibility of an aircraft air turnback, in which case different locations will have to be identified.
So the search in the vast Gulf of Thailand and in the South China Sea were extended to an area covering hundreds of square miles. The authorities then decided to look elsewhere. There was the suggestion the aircraft might have turned around, so they began to search the other side of the Malay Peninsula and on land, on the peninsula itself. 48 hours on, and with hope dwindling, there were still no concrete leads as to where the aircraft might be. The search had intensified with more than 30 aircraft and 40 ships involved. The Philippines Navy joined the efforts. Aircraft from Australia headed to the sea between Malaysia and Thailand. Once more, relatives of the missing passengers were told there was nothing confirmed to report.
The Honourable Prime Minister used the word perplexing. We are equally puzzled as well.
The false passport line continued to be pursued. The suspect tickets issued, the booking for Luigi Moraldi and Christian Kozel paid for in Thai currency, but neither man was on board. The passengers in their place were booked to go from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing and then on to Amsterdam.
Do they look Italian and German?
I think this is a security matter. Let the authorities investigate the claims and also let them come up with a report.
Foul play still could not be ruled out.
If it is terrorism, and we don't know at all that it is yet, but if it is, it's going to be a real wake-up call to a region that thought that was other people's problem, not theirs.
Pilot error remained another option. Yet why was there no Mayday signal? No urgent request for assistance? Why no debris? Why the complete loss of contact with air traffic control?
It can happen because pilots are taught to prioritise their tasks, to aviate first, then to navigate, and then to communicate. So if pilots are busy, they won't speak to air traffic control.
So difficult is it to accept that a plane can simply disappear that some have chosen not to.
Until there's proof that Philip is dead, I refuse to believe it. Of anybody that could survive something like this, it's him. I mean, he's such a fighter, and he has so much to live for.
Commercial flights continued above the Malay Peninsula as the search area was expanded further, beyond the projected path of MH370. Finally, late in the day, a breakthrough. The two men travelling on stolen passports were identified as Iranians. One, a 19-year-old with no known connections to terrorism. It's now believed he was simply trying to claim asylum in Europe.
We believe that he is not likely to be a member of any terrorist group. And we believe that he is trying to migrate to Germany.
Interpol named the two men as Puri Noor Mohammadi and 29-year-old Dilawar Syed Mohammed Reza and confirmed they had switched to the stolen passports.
We know that once these two individuals arrived in Kuala Lumpur on the 28th of February, they boarded Flight 370 using different identities.
Initially, the search area focused on the Gulf of Thailand and the South China Sea, around the presumed flight path north of Kuala Lumpur and the surrounding areas. Search teams began looking at the western peninsula of Malaysia to the Straits of Malacca, one of the world's busiest shipping channels. The reason for the change is that the Malaysian military say they tracked a plane there on radar, but there are doubts over whether it's flight MH370. One theory, and it is only a theory, is that the plane changed course after Kota Baru over on the east and flew at a lower altitude as it tried to turn back to Sabang. The airline has listed pilot error as a possibility, and that theory gained momentum when Australia's Channel 9 broadcast these pictures of the plane's co-pilot, Fareeq Hamid. Mid-air on a flight in 2011, he allegedly allowed passengers into the cockpit and, it's claimed, was smoking in there. Malaysia Airlines says it's aware of the report. This news will, of course, increase the anxiety for waiting relatives.
There is no news whatsoever. It's just disappeared off the face of the earth. And if we could just find some wreckage or something, would be a help probably, but not this.
The mystery of flight MH370 grows ever more confusing. There's now doubt over whether the Malaysian military did actually pick up a signal from the plane well off course to the west of the Malay Peninsula.
This is unprecedented, what we are going through. Coordinating so many countries together is not something that is easy. We're looking at so many vessels and aircraft, so many countries to all coordinate, and a vast area for us to search. And each time that passes, I fear that the search and rescue becomes just a search. But we will never give up hope. And this we owe to the families.
So 5 days on since flight MH370 disappeared, and there is still no trace of the aircraft. Today the focus is on two areas, the South China Sea and the Straits of Malacca, an area spanning 27,000 nautical square miles involving search teams from 12 countries. Malaysia's Air Force chief said military radar detected what could have been the plane at around 200 miles northwest of the island of Penang to an area near India's Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The data recorded was at 2:15 in the morning on Saturday local time. That's around 45 minutes after the plane vanished from air traffic control screens. One former pilot thinks a sudden cockpit depressurization could have rendered the pilots unconscious.
The aircraft will continue on autopilot just as it's doing right now, turning on to this heading, the one that they pre-selected, staying at the same flight level and burning off fuel. It's got 3,000 miles worth of fuel on board. It would take it to about the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Modern aircraft are built and designed not to vanish, but that seems to be exactly what's happened to flight MH370. As each day passes without a sighting offering an explanation, this aviation mystery deepens and the anguish for loved ones continues. Ashish Joshi, Sky News.